know? Welcome to the Gilchrist experience. I shared my wife's birthday there at Cuba. That's exactly a month ago. As you see, I'm still sporting my Cuban tan. And I welcome my family. Happy New Year.
I like how you said it.
My
So,
Cuban
I
tan.
know you get a lot of
All
emphasis
right. I get a lot of remarks about my complexion now, you know? A lot of people like it, and you'd be surprised how many people don't like it. And, you know, when I first got off the beach, Bev looked at me and said, "Ooh, you look scary."
Oh my God. Yeah.
My baby was smooth. But it's funny. It's funny. So I share, well, we're not quite there yet, but welcome to the show, gentlemen.
Yeah.
Happy New Year.
Thank you.
I thought I'd start off on a happy note. That was last year, and now we're into 2020. And today is January 8th, and that was December 9th in 2019. So here we are a month later, and in the midst of turmoil, our buddy in the White House has given us a little excitement the last couple of days. So why don't we play Donald Trump 2011, when he talks about Obama starting a war to win the election in 2011. I'll play that Trump piece, and we'll come right back at you. This is funny. It's so ironic that he would say what he said back then.
He's like a psychic, but against himself.
Psychic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mama
I mean,
Montego.
he always does what he always.
Our president will start a war with Iran because he has absolutely no ability to negotiate. He's weak and he's ineffective. So the only way he figures that he's going to get reelected, and as sure as you're sitting there, is to start a war with Iran. Now, I'm more militant and more militaristic than the president. I believe in strength. But to start a war in order to get elected, and I believe that's going to happen, would be an outrage. Iran can be taken down in many ways. Their population is in turmoil. They look at what's happening in Syria and other countries where it looked like it was an impossibility, and it looks like that one's going to collapse also. So Iran can be taken. I would never take the military card off the table. And it's possible that it'll have to be used because Iran cannot have nuclear weapons. But you've got to exhaust other possibilities. And we're in a great position to do it. They know, or they at least must know, that they're in a little bit of heat because there's a lot of pressure to attack. This is a great time to negotiate. Unfortunately, we have a president that doesn't know the first thing about negotiation. We have a real problem in the White House. So I believe that he will attack Iran sometime prior to the election because he thinks that's the only way he can get elected. Isn't it pathetic?
Excellent.
I'm sure
selection.
everybody finds this amazing.
Excellent.
But I brought this up because of the fact that you can understand the psychological effect of what he's done by following his own prediction. This man is as clever as he is crazy. But he actually believed that back then. And what's happened today? What's happened in the last couple of days? He's all of a sudden he's being impeached. Now this gangster in Iraq, has been singled out as a terrorist for 15, 20 years now, right? Both by the Bush administration, by the Obama administration, but they left him alone because of the fact that you would produce more terrorists than taking out this one man, all right? And we all see this man back in 2011. Now imagine that the Iran nuclear deal was made in 2013.
Right.
A year after Obama was reelected. Now that was And he gave back $150 billion, which was Iran's money, which we
Right.
stole from them back
Right.
in the 70s. All right? So he wasn't giving them just payment as Trump lays it out to be. But we all know the tale if you've been around enough and you follow. But I just want to review in people's minds what kind of nut we've got in the White House. Now let's hear from the youngster on the stage. Welcome home, brother.
Glad I got my,
Julian
I got my
Hemmings.
New York tan. No,
Permanent.
yeah, it's. I was born here. No, but so when it comes to the Trump situation, we're seeing him act out of pure ignorance. It's obvious that he has not read a history book, because you know that when the U.S. goes in and acts in an extreme way and changes the pattern, the ways of life of people that exist there, in terms or in a voice that appears to be for peace or democracy, it usually causes a massive amount of disruption within the country. And for us to tell Iraq when they ask us to remove our soldiers that we will place sanctions on them makes us appear as if we're an occupying force as well. But for Trump to say that we're going to get the bad guy, or Pompeo said we got a bad guy off the map, I can recall that my uncle, he's a U.S. diplomat in Iraq. And so when Trump does those particular actions, it puts those regular everyday folk who are trying to do good work for the country in immense danger.
Yes.
So the idea that he's just playing this strategic thing, or he's just making a maneuver to bolster the strength of the country, what he does in fact is make people feel less safe, and he questions, or he puts in question the human rights of the Iranian people as well, because Soleimani was in an airport and killed many Iranian casualties. So
Iraqi general also.
exactly.
Right? But what do you think about what he says here in 2011 about Obama starting a war attacking Iran to be reelected?
I mean, you know,
Self-fulfilling prophecy.
yeah.
It's
And
the
that's
guy.
what he's done.
yeah.
You know, you have to understand that there's nothing dumb about Trump. And people, you can't, he's slick.
He's ignorant.
No, he's not. It's not ignorant. You can't call this man ignorant. He
Martin Luther
plays
King
the
said
game. He's about the biggest con we've ever encountered.
There's nothing more dangerous than an ignorant man with power.
Yeah.
And this is what we have. People don't know the
I think
history
you
of
make a
Iran
mistake calling him ignorant.
because there's a difference between being ignorant and a fool. Let's call him a fool. There's a
Okay.
difference. He's the fool with power. But the history of Iran
he
is not
doing now?
Iran, it's Persia. Persia is a country that's been around in existence for over 5,000 years.
Yeah.
What people here don't know, and people around the world are not realizing, that in the late 40s and 50s, Persia had a democratic form of government. The largest country with a democratic form of government in the late 1940s, early 50s. They signed an agreement with England for exploration of oil. It was called the Anglo-Persian Oil Company. When the Persians realized that the Brits were ripping them off for their fuel, they called a halt to the deal.
It's the 50s.
Right, early 50s. So Britain said, no, you can't do this. They said, no, you're stealing from us. You're giving us a penny and you're taking 99 cents. They said, get out, take your stuff and get out. So the Anglo Oil Company didn't go home to Britain. They came to Washington. They sat with the CIA and hatched a deal to go back into Persia, to destabilize the government, collapse the government, and then put in their puppet called the Ayatollah, who would allow the Anglo-Persian, that Anglo company, to come back in and drill for oil and get the resources.
Now, Persia.
They
is
renamed
Iraq.
Persia Iran. That is the history. That British company, that Anglo company, is what we call BP today.
That's right.
So you really have to look at the history and understand that the people in Iraq are not stupid. They know what the U.S. was involved in 60 years ago to destroy their government. And this is something that we do on a regular basis around the world.
Well, come back to the 21st century and address the point of Donald Trump talking about Obama starting a war in Iran, and updating it to today in 2020. He tried to start a war in Iran. Exactly what he forecast for Obama. Now let's address that.
Yeah, so...
We're not in class.
Oh, yeah.
No,
I just want to make sure I'm not interrupting. But so I think I have a two-pronged answer. So the first point is that Trump is a phony, as you're saying, right? He's a con artist. So he's presenting this image of being a liberal person where they believe in unifying bonds across international boundaries and exhausting all options before going to war. This is not who Trump is.
Is this the option he chose to start a war in Iran to be reelected?
So
that's my question.
So, in my opinion, I cannot go within his head, but what I can say is that that action being so close to the election would make that question to be a very relevant one.
Well, as slick as he is, don't you
war,
think that's what he forecast for Obama?
Because
he's doing himself.
Because
isn't that quite obvious?
As you're saying, because presidents during wartime get reelected. And for someone to have the impeachment hearings constantly being on air, President Trump understands media, so he's going to put a bigger story out there.
Of course. That's his MO.
Right, to ensure that these impeachment hearings can go under the rug. So it's our job to ensure that this does not become old news, that it remains out there. Yeah.
Come on, brother.
I'm stuck on a couple of things. Poor people in America whose children are in the military.
Fight the war.
And you put that picture next to Trump's picture of his family, and you see those who are making tons of money versus those who are trying to eke out a living or a bonus by going into the military. That's what I'm looking at. Number two is that there are sources of information for us that if we tap into it, we would not fall into the trap of saying or repeating the fake news language of terrorists.
Right.
Suleiman has a history in that area of being, yes, a general and a hero to his people.
Yeah.
But why was he in Iraq? The information that is available that they're not promoting on these shows is that he was in Iraq to broker a peace between Saudi Arabia and Iran.
Is that a true story?
Give your name. And this is for the audience because the audience can look at a show and, agree or disagree. But if they have to work and check out things, that's another thing. There's a guy he goes under the name of Mark of Anaheim. He was on the Carl Nelson show Monday.
Okay.
Mark of Anaheim, that show is up on YouTube. And you look for Mark of Anaheim 48 hours ago. What he points out is that he's the first one that pointed out, not CNN, not the New York Times, not the Daily News, not these other so-called sources of information, that Suleiman was in Iraq, invited to be in Iraq by the Prime Minister, according to what I understand, in order to broker a peace between Iran and Saudi Arabia. Who benefits from that? The people in those countries benefit from that. Who doesn't benefit from it is the military, is what they call the military congressional complex. The military
industrial complex.
They put congressional in it. That's a new piece in there that people miss because the Congress have been tools of the industrial military complex. But here's the thing. When you go to that clip, it's about an hour and a half where Mark of Anaheim gives a whole background. The guy is not a light guy. When I was interviewing Dick Gregory, Dick Gregory would come, I would call Dick, let's say this thing took place New Year's Eve, I would call Dick the next day. He would be on the show that I did that following Sunday. What I didn't know, he was getting information from Mark of Anaheim.
Oh.
And Mark of Anaheim is now giving information openly because there's no Dick Gregory for him to siphon to funnel the information through. It's very important This Mark of Anaheim is not no light guy. He's not a light source of information. So Suleiman, the assassination of Suleiman reminds us of the people in, was it Rwanda, where all the people, they had the fratricidal genocide?
The Hutus and the Tutsis.
Yeah, the Hutus and the
Rwanda.
Tutsis, they had brokered a peace treaty. And they left together, and the two factions the two leaders had left on a helicopter, and it was shot out of this. That's how, am I right or wrong?
Then it takes us into the Congo.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what happened there. The tactic is the same. It's the same. We just saw in 2019 that there's this multi-billion-dollar arms deal with Saudi Arabia and the U.S. Is that
Yeah, we
right?
all know about
So all that, he also points out,
Jared Kushner.
and I'm a bottom line this,
Yeah.
Mark of Anaheim also pointed out Monday that there was what we call insider trading, that before this deal, before they assassinated Suleiman, that the stock for the military, for the arms dealers and whatnot, they were trading going through the roof. I'm using my terminology.
Okay.
But that's for the audience to pursue on their own. Lastly, Minister Farrakhan, last July 21, 2019, he warned Trump about going into Iran. And he's the first one to term Trump's action as that of a king. Trump disagrees with this, he disagrees with that, he disagrees, so he's going to overrule everybody. He's going to butch, we call it in the street, he's going to butch everything off. And that's what we saw. We also saw, this is my opinion, we also saw a mob hit. We saw a mob hit on Suleiman.
Right.
Yeah.
And but he's not a terrorist, as they point out. That's the cover story.
Yeah.
The real story is what you want to point out, the election, but you also want to point out that the peace treaty, that there's a peace detente being brokered. That's more important in that area than ever before, because it wasn't until these guys, not us, I question us, what we are doing, because black people ain't involved in that decision.
Oh, we should be.
Black people are not involved in the hit that was taken on Suleiman. So you can't say we took Suleiman out.
Oh, yeah.
They took him out.
Nobody was involved with that. That's Trump.
They
All the
being
way.
the dominant culture.
Well,
the
let's
people-
let's say, our president by force, as far as I can see. I've been laughing all through this how he got in there, but we're dealing with his fourth year right now,
So,
and it's depressing and yet eye-opening, because you can see, as he said in 2011, he tried to start a war, right? Now Iran reacts how? They just sent last night over 17 missiles. 2 different American bases in Iraq. None of the missiles hitting or doing any sort of damage.
But don't misunderstand that. They want, the Iranian military over the years has been trained here. Their pilots going back more than, I have friends from Iran.
Do you think they
that
really
I've
want
had-
to take on Trump?
Wait, I have friends from Iran for over 35 years. I know a guy who was a pilot for the Iranian Air Force. They were trained by the U.S. military. Don't think this is some third world country. Not at all. When I was in Dubai and the UAE earlier last year, they're a light years ahead of us. We're in the Stone Age. Those pilots, and this is what and understand this, ladies and gentlemen, the launch that they did yesterday, they specified where they wanted those rockets to go. That wasn't that they didn't miss anything. They're telling Trump, you want to start some, you got to bring some. They are ready, willing, and able. They are not the Iraqis. They're not the Iraqis. Trump signed an agreement, a nuclear arms agreement. Not Trump, Obama. Trump walked away from that. All right? These people are not stupid. They're not scared. They can hit us, and they can hit any base in any spot on any base they want to hit.
I was
beyond
about to finish this by saying Iran is smart enough not to attack America. They're going to wait and see what we do with Trump, which nobody in his right mind would come at us, full scale with Trump in the White House.
They hit one of the New York dams last year, a reservoir. They took over the computer in a reservoir.
Yeah.
Now, with that,
Their expertise
you can
is-
open the floodgates and have the water come out of that dam
Well, see-
and wipe out whole towns
We
upstate.
know their capabilities. That was just a warning shot as far as I was concerned. I wanted to finish this by saying Iran is smart enough not to come out full force. Because of the fact that they know they've got a nut in the White House, all he wants is an excuse to come out with a real war, to divert from what this impeachment and everything else that he's done wrong in life, in our lives. And all of this helps is who? Netanyahu. Netanyahu is struggling with his own authority in Israel. Now, who does this benefit? Every time Trump does something, like he got rid of the Kurds in Syria, it helped the Russians. The Russians moved in. Now, if he attacks Iran and Iraq kicks us out of Iraq, who do you think is going to move into Iraq? Iranians and the Russians. Okay? So here's how smart and slick he really is. There's nothing ignorant about this man. He's just a clever devil. That's all. He acts like a buffoon to camouflage what he's really doing.
Yeah, I don't.
We all know that he's a puppet of Putin.
No, I definitely think that
No,
he's
you
much
have to
more ignorant
realize,
than you're,
open your
I think
eyes.
you're
The
overestimating
man's
him.
a puppet of Putin.
No, he's a puppet. He's
He's
definitely a puppet. They own him.
Hillary Clinton called him a puppet way back during.
Well, he could be a puppet, but he's not. He might not be willing. So Donald Trump, I genuinely don't believe he thought this through, and he took an impulsive action and put people's lives in jeopardy. I do not believe he put this through. Do I think there was Russian interference in the election? Of course I do. Do they know that he has a bad temperament? Of course they do. Do they know that he's willfully incompetent? Yes. Is he a puppet in that sense? Yes. But I don't look at Trump as being a mastermind. There's no way.
You don't think Putin's telling them what to do?
No.
He's a receiver
You
of
don't think
instructions.
you don't think Putin?
I think
who do
he
you
can
think told
manipulate
him? Who do you
but I
think
don't
told
think
him to
he's
pull
He's
out?
manipulating
orders.
him. He is following orders. He is
Yes, he is.
definitely following
You know,
orders.
Yes, he is.
Because he sounds like a Manchurian candidate, and that's a
remember-
level of you're overestimating him. I think he's
No.
deeply impulsive, and he's
You've got to
he's
look
known.
at the larger picture.
But when you
Who put him in office? Putin.
well, not just Putin. You got it's a
Putin
little.
put him in office.
They are openly discussing, the Republicans are openly discussing suppression of
yeah,
voting.
exactly.
Right.
That's what put the guy
Yeah.
in office.
Okay.
And
Suppression of the black vote
Who
and
helped
other
suppress
votes.
the vote?
I'm sorry.
Who helped suppress the vote?
a lot of
The
people suppress the
Russians.
vote.
That's a game that they're running.
Yeah.
Cyber.
That's a game they're
It's
running.
more than cyber.
You
It is
look
the
at-
mindset of that party. And let's not forget,
What do I?
it was
what
the
about all
Democratic
these-
Party that suppressed the vote in the 30s, 40s, and 50s.
Oh, don't like that. Why do you go back
Wait,
there?
listen to me, for God's sakes.
I'm listening
There's no
to you.
difference
And he's
between
talking about the
Democrat
30s
and
the
Republican.
40s. There is a
But those are
difference.
parties
I am
switched, though.
listen to the history.
I know
This
the
is what I
history.
had
This
to
is what
study
you
in school.
do.
This is what I've studied. This was my major.
Well,
And don't.
Well,
The point I'm making is that the Democratic Party
Used
was
to
the
be the
party
biggest racists
that
in the
they were
world.
the racists.
okay,
all right?
now it's backwards.
They've switched, and there's no difference between the two.
There
As
is a
long as
difference.
they can suppress black people, they don't care. And we need to understand it's the same swimming pool. The bathing suit may have changed, but you're in the same pool with the same people. And they will play back and forth one against one. Well, I'll be the good cop, you be the bad cop. Next week, I'll be the bad cop, and you be the good cop. And
so
we need
where
to
do we
understand
stand?
that.
But
Where
the
do we
more-
stand now?
But the more
as far as you're
diversity,
concerned?
the more diversity in the voting pool, the more likely Democrats will win. So I don't necessarily agree that
Well, that's
all
why
of
you
them
have
want
voter
them to-
suppression.
by the Republicans.
So that's what we
Yes.
should be fighting.
And that,
Voter suppression is what we should be.
Martin Luther King's,
Update
his
yourself.
cousin
Let's deal
couldn't
with the
even vote. They
21st
told her she
century.
couldn't vote.
Let's deal with the 21st century. Let's deal with what's happening now.
But the roots of it
You got to, yeah.
is in the past. The roots.
Yeah.
The
Well, we know
roots.
that. We
You
can go
got to
back
tear the
to
root for the plant to die. You got to take it out at the root.
Yeah.
Cutting the leaves off, you trim
Talking
a bush,
about the
leaves
Democrats
will
and what they
reprocess.
did in the 30s
They'll
and
grow back.
40s doesn't help the subject matter now. As far as
you know,
I'm concerned.
You need to understand the war
Yeah,
Well,
that
we
you're
understand
in.
the war.
Yeah, it's
We
reflect.
understand the war that's happening today.
Okay.
And-
Kerry and what's the guy, Gore? They
Yeah.
ran for president. And they were cheated out of the election. They did not fight for us.
2000.
They did not fight for us. We were depending on these guys. I mean, if you remember, the voting down in Florida, they wiped out
Right. The
all
Supreme
these-
Court did that.
They
Yeah,
did that
in the
recently.
last one, in the
I'm
last
talking
one.
about during the Bush running
Bush
for
and-
president.
Bush and Gore.
They wiped out. The college students were coming out to vote, and they did. I'm talking about black college students. They came and they
Right.
They were wiped off. I mean, the stuff is there, but black leadership, pardon me, doesn't bring that to the fore. They're dealing with what monies they can get today.
Well, see, what I'm trying to say, let's learn from those mistakes we made back then and not think we don't have a horse in this game, that we can't affect what's happening as black
Wisconsin purged 300,000 people from the voting registration
Well, let's do
last
something
month
about that.
from their voter
Let's
rolls.
do something about
And
that.
another 100,000, I think,
Well,
in
let's
Georgia.
do something about that. We've
So,
got an
yeah,
opportunity to participate.
Officer Graham brought up a great point. So last year, I created a group called New Deal Democrats, and we registered about 200 students to vote in the AUC, and we were teaching classes every Tuesday and Thursday about like different policy issues, and people were getting really excited about Stacey Abrams.
Yeah,
So
there you
there
go.
were masses of students
That's
going
it.
out there to vote for her.
Right.
But she was going against Secretary of State Brian Kemp.
All right.
And as I kept seeing students come in droves and smile and be excited to go out there and vote, the voting booth or the voting machine started to malfunction. And all of those votes, all those students that were really passionate about getting involved, their votes were wiped off the map.
Right.
So this is, as you're saying, right? This is the history, and it's still happening right now. The only way we can make a difference is by going out there, talking about it, getting people informed, getting people registered to vote, and make this a thing. We cannot fall back on this issue.
That's right.
Yeah. And I don't want us to blame the Russians, because this is our problem.
It's our fault.
You were down in Georgia, and you know the Russians didn't do what
I
happened.
don't know what the
Wait
Russians.
a minute.
I'm not.
Wait a minute.
I
Hold
can't
it.
say
Hold
that.
tight.
Kemp.
If you're down
Yes,
there
Kemp.
Well, you
and
know,
you
it's a
get
cracker.
the people to come out excited,
Yeah.
and the machines break down,
Yeah.
You know, it was
the
Kemp.
doggone Russians ain't
ain't
breaking no
doing that.
doggone
Right.
machines down.
You're right.
You know,
Martin Luther King's
But-
cousin is 90-something years old. Kemp told her she couldn't vote.
Yeah.
How the hell are you going to tell a 93-year-old woman who was voting before you were born that she's not registered
but
to
you
vote?
know- but you-
Well, in
Yeah,
2020,
you're right.
we've got a chance to change that. Okay?
But and
All
that's,
right?
So,
Now, the party and that we should be supporting this year, never mind what happened in
You've-
30s and 40s.
in
but
those
this year,
states.
2020, should be the Democrats and putting Joe Biden and Stacey
well,
Abrams on the
I'm not
ticket.
endorsing Joe Biden, but I like how you just slipped
Joe
that in.
Bidin and Stacey
No, no.
Abrams.
Stacey
for
is doing
president.
something
Yeah,
with
didn't
Bloomberg,
endorse
I
it.
You hear
think,
me?
this week. Stacey
You hear me?
Abrams is
Didn't
doing
endorse
something with
anybody.
Bloomberg this week.
I didn't hear about that.
endorsing.
And Bloomberg is not qualified to be president either.
Didn't-
Stacey's
It
working
came
with
out
Bloomberg?
today.
Yeah,
You showed
I'm
us
not
what was
endorsing.
happening
in New
Thank you.
Yeah,
Did you hear that?
I just not endorsing. We're still out there, New Deal Democrats, and our voices heard.
Well, we're voting
Stacey-
for a Democrat, aren't we?
Yeah.
Stacey Abrams
Never mind. We're voting for a
needs to
Democrat.
consider
We
who
black
she's
people
running
are
with.
voting for the Democrats, right? I got us one on
That
that
was good.
page,
We got to
right?
find one.
Yeah.
Never mind what happened last year, or the year before, or
Yeah.
the 30s and the
Where
40s.
the Democrats were against their own
this year,
interest.
the Democrats are in, right?
We're unified.
Are we unified?
I hope so. Depends on the candidate, right, guys? We are unified.
We voted
Are
for
we
Roosevelt,
unified
didn't
on
we?
that?
Yeah.
And we have a.
And he
we have
promoted
a-
the lynching of black
we ha-
people.
Oh my gosh.
Oh,
Yeah, that was
God,
that
we
one I
gotta go back
didn't
to
know.
that.
Yeah.
Mr. You don't want to
That
go
was
back
Roosevelt.
to. Mr. Gilchrist loves the party. He wants to protect the party.
I'm not
But
down
the
with a
party
I
party.
don't want
has
to protect the
problems.
party. I want to survive Trump.
Yeah.
Because
You're going to
this fool
survive
gets
him whether he's alive
I don't
or
want
dead.
to
You'll
have to
survive
deal with him another 4 years.
Well, I
How
don't
about
know.
that?
After this Iran situation, I didn't know if that was
I don't
true.
want to deal with
The
him.
survival
I do
is-
care enough about
Yeah.
what happens in America to not, I'm not going back to Africa or any place else.
You can't.
I don't.
You went to
I'm
Cuba.
not
You can't go
endorsing
to
this.
Africa.
I ain't going back. I ain't leaving. I ain't giving up on this.
You sound
I
like
love
the
America
people from
too,
the
man.
60s, brother. I ain't
no,
going
no.
back no Africa. They could
You
call
hear
me
me?
in the
I
pot.
love
You call me
America.
All the Africans
I
are
love
here.
Africa.
All the
I love
Africans are here.
everything. I love everything.
Until I walk around, I
There
walk
is a
into Africans.
brotherhood.
They're all here.
That's the crew.
Welcome
man.
back. Happy New Year.
We're all
We're back.
That was a lot, Mr.
But
Gilchrist.
seriously,
That was a lot.
seriously, man.
Wow.
There's-
I'm not going back.
I seriously
never
feel
go back
every
to
time I
Georgia.
have Professor Jeffries on
Then
the
there was
show,
the tan thing in the beginning.
and we all talk about the value of the homeland and how we owe it to our ancestors and so forth and so on. But I think about the struggle, the 400 years that we spent in this country fighting for our freedom.
We have a lot
And going through back and forth, struggling being black in America has been a 78-year struggle of mine, but I never felt less human than anybody else through all this struggle. And I know with a God consciousness and an ability of the Marine inside to fight for the Spirit of God in me,
I think we
bring out righteousness.
yeah, I agree in the sense of the fact that we have a lot more power. We have a lot more power than we believe we do.
Self-power.
And we, as a group, as people, as human beings, we give money power. We give nations power. And when people begin to think of the opposite, that's what allows men like Trump to abuse their power. We have to always realize that there's there's a large agreement between the citizens and the state. And if the state is abusing the citizens, we have the right to speak up. And hopefully in this democracy, we do that through the right to vote.
Excuse me, this is
Yeah.
not a democracy. Go ahead.
This is a republic, but a republic is a form of democracy.
For the republic for
Yeah,
which
yeah,
we
I just wanna-
stand.
Republic. This
Yeah,
is not
yeah,
a
yeah.
The republic
democracy.
for which we
Yeah.
stand.
Can't
You know what
catch
we're going to do?
Can't catch me slipping, officer. Can't, no,
I'm going to go back to I'm going to introduce Julian,
I'm here.
I introduce the video of
Oh.
you talking at NAN and take you back to your early beginnings. This
Why are we
young
going
man
back?
came
I
to
know,
NAN.
we gotta miss
when he
history.
was 15
Why are we going back
years
to that?
old.
That was before the afro, man. That was a low cut.
see what I'm saying?
I love
I
you.
was
See,
up on
this is
that.
like Obama and Trump. Why are you going back to that?
Because it shows the
See,
root
that-
of
you
what
see,
we're
we're
seeing
here.
now.
Back to old.
Round of applause. Come on up, Julian.
The present thing is, no, I said Senator. Bennix pricked me up a little bit. I appreciate it. Wow. I first want to say I'm really happy to be back home. I've been here since I was 15, 16 years old. I've grown up here. You guys have seen me. I've seen you. And you guys have always made this home to me. And I remember as a little kid, I'd always wear suits. And I'd always watch Harry Potter. And some things never change. But you guys always accepted me and allowed me to be peculiar. And that's allowed me to have my own identity when I went to college. So I just want to say thank you to all you guys for that. And I didn't prepare any remarks because I really wanted to talk off the cuff and speak from my heart. And I remember thinking about the word Ujima before I got up here, and how that should be a clarion call to the United States of America. The idea of collective responsibility, the idea of a shared feeling of empathy, because we recognize that we are only doing as well when the most vulnerable within our society are doing well. Not just when the rich and powerful are doing well. In fact, as we know, when our society has a very few people at the top making most of the money, that's not a call for dreams or the sky's the limit. That's a call that's talking about an immense wealth-income gap within our country. our brothers and sisters here talk about what they're facing and what they're going through. And at Morehouse College, or when I'm in college in Atlanta, there are times when brothers and sisters think that they're successful or they've been gifted because of something that's going on in their own minds, that they're somehow more talented than somebody else. But they don't recognize the fact there are people that came before them, that lifted them up, that spoke to them, that put them in positions where they feel safe and comfortable, where they can be successful in that arena. I wanted to also talk about the fact of how we're organizing over at Morehouse College because of the lessons that I learned here at National Action Network under Ashton Sharpton and under Reverend Sharpton. We are students from Morehouse, Spelman, Clark, SCAD, Georgia State, and we went out into the West End community, a community that's been abandoned by Morehouse, a community that's been abandoned by Spelman, a community that's been abandoned by Clark. It's being gentrified. People are being pushed out of their homes. Generations of families, people of color, who made Atlanta theirs, are being told that they are now outsiders. I was speaking to Ashton Sharpton about what can we do in Harlem? What's the culture in Harlem like? What can we do to fight against gentrification here? She said, fight against it. It's already here. We already don't matter here. Our brother here is talking about how he's a taxpayer, and because of a quote unquote disability, he can't be with the person he loves. But Jeff Bezos is talking about how he can't pay any taxes. We're talking about an issue of values. We're not just talking about money. We're talking about values. We're talking about how people care about others, how we see somebody, and a lot of the time, those within our society are the most invisible. I always say, I'm from the Bronx. My mom and dad didn't go to college. I'm a black guy. I know, right? No, they said I'm a black guy. They said, really? I said, yeah. I couldn't believe it.
I'll play the rest of it.
I thought it was just New York 10.
I just wanted to stop there to give you a little pause there.
Yeah. No, so you know my thoughts on it?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I really appreciate it. I'm a little, I appreciate it. But
What about your growth over the last 6 years?
well, I mean, it was done under immense flames and a great teasing by my brothers and by my elders. So it's been wonderful. But I think I've just been able to understand that I'm part of a movement, that I care, that I'm passionate about it, and that I'm a lot more comfortable in my own skin. I've done this now, not long you guys, but I've done it for 6 years, and
That's a lifetime.
yeah, well, for me, yeah,
Especially
because
from 15 to 21.
well, I'm 12, so it isn't half my life. but I'm
You
sure.
see your growth there?
Yeah, I'm ready, man. I want to fight.
Okay.
I want to get involved. Yeah, it's hard for me to get it. It's hard for me to keep a date still, but I'm still enjoying life in college and having a lot of fun and just understanding why I'm here, and me being here is bigger than me being for myself. So that's pretty exciting.
It takes a village to raise a...
Yeah. And
Well, let's play the rest of this.
if there are any
You
young
wanna see
ladies that
the
are
rest of
watching
it?
this, Julian, Hemmings.
I want you to see
_
how you finish this. All right, just play the rest of that for him.
Patch. No. But I can remember as a kid talking to politicians and them ignoring me because I wasn't what they perceived to be valuable. How many times do we talk to people in power and we assume that since we put them there, they're going to speak up for us? They're going to care about us. But they don't. They care about themselves and the power they put themselves in. There's a false notion. There is a false notion that we do not live in a collective society. No one in this country can make it without you. They cannot stay in power without you. You have to believe in yourselves. You have to believe that you can do something a little different. They tell us that we can't stand up because of where we come from, what we look like, what we've gone through. I tell you that you can. You know why? Because I've seen it. I'm only 21. I've seen people stand up and oppose this system. You know where I've seen it at? The National Action Network. I've seen that in Harlem. I see that within each and every single one of your eyes. You guys want something different. You sacrifice your Saturdays where you could be resting home from work, and you come here because you have an ideal. The ideal of justice, the ideal of fairness, the ideal of equality. It's not a fool's errand to believe in something. It's a fool's errand to become cynical. As long as you got breath in your lungs, you can fight. That's what we learn in New York, right? That's what we learn as people of color. They thought they could break us, but we're unbreakable. We're titanium, right? I don't mean to give you guys a feel-good, rise up speech, but it's not a speech, it's from my heart, I mean it. It's a conversation. You guys matter. Don't ever forget that. No matter if you're, how old are you, kid? He's everything. No, I'm joking. You're 10 years old, and you're brilliant. You can be 10, you can be 100, but as long as you care, you can make a difference. So, we need to understand when we're voting this year, whether it's for our local, right, or our federal election, we have to understand that there are issues that we should care about. We should look at Medicare for all as being a possibility, right? We should look at another example, the official closing of Rikers Island. I was flying in from Atlanta, and I'm looking from the right side of my window from the plane, and I'm looking at this mess, this structure that has broken black men for. And I'm looking at how we talk about people that are undocumented, and that structure that imprisons the bodies and breaks the minds. These detention camps on the border. And I begin to think about the structures within our neighborhoods that they call the projects. And these structures that are placed to break down the minds and break down the bodies. And I was thinking about what she was saying with mental health institutions that are not there to heal, but break down the minds and break down the bodies. And they begin to question us. How come we're so damaged? How come we react so negatively? Think about the structures that we put in place. And the greatest structure of all is a systematic structure within this country that gives you images, that gives you news, that tells you that you're nobody, and they expect you to believe in yourselves. But a mind is a terrible thing to waste. And in spite of their pleas for you to fall, in spite of their messages telling you that your color, your race, your able-bodied status, or who you love makes you unlistenable, I tell you that you matter. I tell you that you should stand up. I tell you to organize. You tell yourself to organize. You tell yourself to stand up and to dream big. Thank you guys very much. God bless.
Are you on the ballot?
No, not yet.
You're not on the ballot yet.
Oh, I was keep snorting here.
See, this is why I have so much hope.
Thanks.
Because you're one of, hopefully we've got a bunch of other young people
many,
like
yeah.
you. And so that's why I look forward to the 21st century. Because I've known you these 6 years and I've seen how you're growing. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you, Mr. Gilchrist.
I mean, that puts tears in my eyes because I saw you struggle with it, man. And we're all struggling with that. And you see a youth like yourself, and you see how you speak, you could run for president talking like that.
Well, thank you, though. But there are many students.
But did you know that
like
you
me.
appeared and to touch people like that?
Well, my goal is never to appear and touch anybody. My goal is just to
Speaking
speak
the
truth.
Okay.
And to display the passion that I have in my heart. I genuinely believe that my life is to be with the movement.
Okay.
And there are a lot of young people who care just as much as I do. A lot of older folk care just as much as I do. We care. We just gotta have a vehicle to show that thing.
So we're counting on you and that
Yeah.
passion to follow us through.
Join New Deal Democrats at Morehouse College. We're gonna have New Deal Democrats here in New York. We're gonna fight, fight, fight. This is what we're ready for.
New Deal was Roosevelt.
Yeah, yeah, but it's a reinvestment within our people, the history.
The
Judge
21st
Riker.
century.
Rikers
Let's not
Island.
go past let's not go back to the 20th.
You know about Judge Riker?
I know about Rikers Island.
No, but you know about Judge Riker.
Tell me about Judge Riker, sir.
Judge Riker was a judge in New York in the 1800s. Slave catchers would come to New York looking for Leroy, looking for Joe, a swarthy Negro with broad lips and thick and a broad nose. And the slave catchers would grab you up at night, especially along the wharf in Manhattan. It got so bad they were snatching black men off the streets in the daytime. But they had to take the Negro before the magistrate, who was Judge Riker. Judge Riker received a fee for every Negro that he turned over to the slave catchers. He got $10. So depending upon how he felt or how light his pockets were, if you were brought in and he needed $10,
Yeah.
you were taken back. 12 years a slave. Judge Riker. Rikers
Island.
But you know, officer, and that's the thing about being in this country is that when we're talking about the structures, right? If we're looking at what's going on in the Carolinas and these statutes that are put in place that are constantly reminding us of the history of this country, which is saying that if you are other, if you are different, if you are dark, if you don't speak our language, you have a like or higher possibility of being placed within these structures that are put in to break the mind and the body.
But
and that's the problem.
you've passed all those standards. I mean, you're a black man and you've accomplished. Look what you've accomplished.
Yeah, I've
so
gotten a
those
D- in
standards
pre-cal.
don't stand up anymore. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Deal with the 21st century and what we're dealing with now. I understand our history. I'm a history buff myself. Okay, but I'm saying, how do we deal with getting those?
So you have to look at
Those Abrams should have been governor.
Yeah, so
how do we solve that
I
problem in
think
Georgia today?
I think what you're doing here is a good example, right? Like having a TV show. Mr. Leroy being as intelligent as he is, Officer Graham being as awesome as he is, looks awesome. But we use our privileges, our talents and our abilities, not just for ourselves, but to give back and to help and to pull
That's what we're
people
trying
in
to
and
do
to
here.
lift people up.
Okay.
So using this show,
How do
giving
we
people a
avoid the
voice,
suppression of the vote?
we just keep on doing what we're doing. We keep on using our talents and abilities, our innovation, our
And show
creativity
hope.
to fight.
And show hope.
Yeah, exactly.
And not live in the past. That's
Black
why I think
people
we-
have to make a decision to save our youth. Brother Julian, is an example of the quality of individuals who are on Rikers
Okay.
Island.
Ooh.
They're on Rikers. The slave catcher today is mass incarceration.
Right.
The slave catcher today is Bloomberg with the stop and frisk.
Right.
Who just
The brat-
apologized for this.
Who just
While
apologized
he's running for
because he's
president.
running for office,
Exactly.
and he can pay some Negroes to accept the apology.
Insane.
The quality exhibited by Brother Julian and other young people at NAN is an example that should propel us to save the youth in our families, to save the youth outside of our families. He is an example. And I'm not taking anything away from your abilities, brother. You went down to Morehouse and you saw dynamite guys down there. You
Yeah.
say, damn, man, and you all coalesced
Yeah.
Yeah.
and put together a movement to register people, and they were excited. The generation that he is a representative of, and the ones who are born just slightly before him, and the younger ones, they have no fear. They don't know about ceilings
Right.
that Brother
That's
Leroy
it.
came up
That's
with.
right.
You know,
That's
we
right.
can't do this. There's nothing they can't do.
I think too.
I don't
I've been
think
highly
people,
fortunate.
I think
Oh, sorry.
people of our generation, the elements we came in, we didn't have too much of a ceiling as far as I knew.
You know,
I mean, we were limitless. I mean,
I had a ceiling
What?
in a number of places
Yeah.
that still were in effect at that time. They're no longer in effect.
Yeah.
They're psychological.
Okay.
There are psychological ceilings today, but our youngsters don't know that. That's
Like
why
running
you
a mile
have
in a minute. Right.
That's why your brothers own you own record companies, you own Maybachs and stuff like that. Brother Leroy say, "Damn man, the guy that's what a Maybach look like."
But I think people in my generation have been fortunate enough to get advice and get counsel from our elders, and I think that that village raising a child scenario is so true. I've only been good at this because I've constantly been invested in by you guys, and I really appreciate it. So every time I'm here, I make a way to come by and just say thank you, right? So, yeah.
Anytime I hear Hezekiah Walker was
Good singer.
Harlem a few weeks ago, gave a fantastic presentation. I'd never seen the man, and the man is bad. And his ministry deals with youth. His ministry in Brooklyn deals with youth, and that attracts me. Johnny
Ray Youngblood.
Johnny Ray Youngblood. And there are these ministers, including Sharpton, who have youth programs.
Yeah.
And not excluding the Nation of Islam. In fact, this coming Sunday is Youth Sunday.
Awesome.
And they need to interact with you. You need to interact with them, providing your schedule allows. It's 11 o'clock Sunday.
11 o'clock Sunday.
And these are young people who are going to do the main lecture. And a young sister, is going to do the main lecture. Starts at 11, you're out of there at 1:30. But my point is that we need this kind of outreach, we need this kind of nurturing to save our youth, to save the ones in our own families. I count myself.
Yeah.
Save the ones in our own family. What you demonstrate, brother, I mean, I appreciate this is the kind of thing that we say, yeah, right on, because you're able to do things that we weren't able to do. We can see that. We can see that in the present, knowing what the past is.
Yes, sir.
And you're humble, and I'm not saying this to blow smoke or anything like that. You have to be humble to come out of the NAN.
Well,
Because
come
you
out
see,
of Harlem, yeah.
Well, I'm dealing with NAN. You see down-to-earth
Yeah.
people in National Action
Oh, yeah.
Network.
Right.
You see a cross-class structure there. You see, on Saturdays, it is maybe one of the most diverse, black diverse groupings that you will find in a, quote, in a church.
From the low to the high.
Low to the high, you understand? so you were in.
Well, isn't that, as a Christian, that what we're
melting
supposed
pot.
to be doing?
Yeah.
Isn't that what we're supposed to be doing here in New York?
That's that's why I love
I
about
mean,
New York,
how do we get together as a people? We take
We just
all
do it.
sides.
Yeah, you just
We
got to
have to
do
learn
it.
to take on all our different views.
Yeah.
That's why I leave this an open forum that everyone speaks up.
Yeah.
And I'm an instigator, so I get in here and instigate.
You gotta be
Your cattle prod is
fearless.
Trump.
I'm the instigator.
Fearless.
You're either going to be
Man,
a settler or a pioneer.
We're about to go off.
wow.
Choose
Power to the
one.
people. Manhattan.
New Deal Democrats.
We got a minute for the Bronx. Any announcements, Leroy?
Yeah, the announcement is the youth ministry this coming Sunday at Muhammad's Mosque, number 727th Street, Malcolm X Boulevard, 11 o'clock. Everyone is invited. Bring your youngsters to show what we can do with youngsters. Doesn't matter what your income level is. Get
10
the Final
seconds.
Call
Right.
newspaper with Minister Farrakhan.
Go to your Instagram if you have an Instagram and follow at New Deal Democrats, no space, to see what the movement's going on.
What's the name of Democrats?
At New Deal Democrats, no space.
At New Deal.
Yeah, but not
And,
AT, but just at New Deal Democrats. Make sure everybody's okay.
We got 15 seconds.
Beautiful.
Mr. Graham, tell us some
He
truth.
always takes a minute or two. So.
Well, I was thinking about it myself.
Happy New Year. We can't.
Oh,
we have
man,
enough
God
time
is
for one of
great.
his stories. Power to the people. God bless.
Thank you for the
Happy New
opportunity.
Year.
Thank you.
Happy New Year.
All right.
God bless you, black
Love you, man. Love you, man.
Senator,